All right, guys, so you have basic shapes such as a circle, a square, a triangle, a rectangle. And out of those shapes, you can build 3D forms by adding lines and by adding shading. So that's what we're going to work on. Starting with the circle, of course. So let's just all make sure we know what we're talking about. So, how are we going to do this? Let's just start right here. So, if you have a circle, you can go ahead and draw a circle on your paper to the best of your ability. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to make a perfect circle, you can. There's tricks you can use, but for now, just try to sketch out a circle. So a circle by itself is a shape, and a shape is a two-dimensional figure. It has height, it has width, but it does not have the third dimension, which is depth. Okay, so continuing, go ahead and draw a square. Also a shape. It has height and width, but no depth, which would be the third dimension. Okay, continuing on, a triangle, same thing. A rectangle, a little longer than a triangle. Also, two-dimensional. It has height, it has width, but it does not have depth. Now, to make these objects into 3D forms, go ahead and draw these on your paper if you haven't yet. And then we're going to start to turn them into three-dimensional forms. And how do we do that? Well, adding other lines and adding shading. So a form is 3D. A form has height, width, but it also has the third dimension, which is depth, coming towards you. So to take a circle and turn it into a sphere, what you have to do is add some type of shading, some type of information to let you know that it's 3D. So a simple way to do that would maybe draw the design of like a ball onto it, like a type of ball that you like, a basketball, a baseball. But another way to do it is to put some simple lines that show the effect of light on the ball. And then we call that shading. So there's lots of ways to do it. We'll start with probably the most simple way, which is just put a little bit of hatching over on the side. And that just gives it a little hint that this is a three-dimensional object. Then put a little bit of shadow underneath. Now it looks like the ball is sitting in space on a surface. Now there's lots more shading you can add. I just did the simple hatching in one side of the ball. You can add cross-hatching lines. Those are lines that go across. You can add contour lines. Those are lines that reveal the shape of the edge, showing you the form. You can add a range of value from light to dark, where the lightest light's over here and then it slowly gets darker as it gets further and further from the light. And all of these will work to create the illusion that you're not just looking at a circle, you're now looking at a sphere. A sphere is a 3D form. Okay. Circle, sphere. Okay, to take the square and make it a cube, you're also going to use shading, but before you do the shading, you're going to add some lines. And we'll start simple. Let's just take our square shape and let's put a short line going about like that, and then another one over here that's basically parallel to that one, and then another one down here. So these three lines are basically going in the same direction, more or less. They're more or less parallel to each other. And then you can connect, and now you have a cube. Now it still looks pretty flat. And so if you want to kick it up a notch, you're going to add some shading to it. So maybe the top is still the lighter value, so maybe you don't put any shading on that. Then you have to decide where the shadow is going to go. If the light's coming this way, the shadow would be on this side and down here. If the light's going that way, it would be over here. But the light could come from many other directions, and it could go all the way around. It could come around this way. Just for simplicity for now, we're going to decide that the shadow is over here on this side and the light's coming that way. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the shadow first on this one. And to draw that shadow, it's going to be basically this line. Just draw a light line that continues from there, and then up here where the corner is, draw another one that's parallel to that one, and then try to kind of match the shape of this line at the edge. And don't be exact, because the shadow's not going to be as clean usually as the edge, but that's about the shape of it. And then we'll put some pencil on this side. I'm just turning the pencil to the side right now to get a thick amount of color on there. I mean, graphite. And you don't have to do this right now, but I'm just letting you know. I'm trying to make this surface look a little darker than that. So this is just a little darker than the shadow. Just a variation is what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be exactly that way. This could be darker than that or vice versa, but just a slightly different value, meaning this is a little darker than that. Then up on this, I will put something a little lighter than that. Pretty light, actually. Just very faint, just to give it some three-dimensionality, to make it look like the light's coming. mostly from above and mostly from over here. And so the top of the cube is basically as bright as the paper. The front of the cube is a little darker because it's not getting as much direct light. And then the back side is the darkest because it gets the least light, and then we have a shadow. Okay, so we've now taken a square and turned it into a cube. 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional. All right, now the triangle you can turn into a couple different things. We'll start with the easy one. Kind of mess up the angle on that. You can fix it and make it more upright if you want, but it's not going to matter that much. And then you can add your side over here, or because I kind of did the angle a little bit wrong, I'm going to put it over here. Okay, but your cube, your triangle can turn into a pyramid many ways. That's not the only way to do it. So in fact, let's do another one more looking like this shape. And this time we'll just go about like that. Okay, and then we decide where the light's coming from and shade one side and put a little shadow down there. So now you've taken a 2-dimensional shape, a triangle, and turned it into a 3-dimensional form, a pyramid. But we also can take this triangle shape and kind of modify it a little bit, so we'll do that as well. So the bottom of the triangle, instead of drawing it, we're going to make a rounded part down here. Now we've got a cone shape. And let's put the shadow on this side this time. And we'll just put some hatching lines to make it look like there's more light over here. It's called a cone. Also a 3-dimensional shape. Not exactly built from a triangle because you do have to kind of change it down here. The pyramid's easier to do going straight from the triangle. All right, so the rectangle, you could make a cube-like form from the rectangle, right? We won't do that now because we already learned how to do that, but you would just take the lines and draw them out. Then you would have a rectangular cubic shape. But we're going to instead build a cylinder shape off of the rectangle. And I'm going to make it smaller, a little shorter. So you start with the rectangle. Then what you draw is an elliptical shape over here. An ellipse is a flattened circle. And then you draw a similar shape over on the other side. Now you have a cylinder on the side. The side where you want the light to be. Put some shade and shadow of some kind. go back in and erase those lines if they bother you. I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to make a big mess because I'm using a dark, soft graphite pencil right now. There's another way to get to this to this cylinder shape, and we'll look at that briefly. And that's to start with the ellipse. So let's put an ellipse up here. We'll put it next to the circle. Okay, an ellipse, a two-dimensional shape. It has height and width, but no depth. It's a shape. So to make this into a form, you could just draw some legs on it. So what do you mean? Well, you take this shape and then you put some vertical lines. And you can make it long or short. We'll just keep it kind of simple for now. Not too tall. Okay, and then decide where the light is. Put some simple hatching lines for shadow, or if you prefer, add some cross hatching lines. Okay, and there you have shapes into forms.